everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Viking Chats podcast. Joined today by the fabulous Megan 18. Darling, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. So before we get chatting, today's special podcast is all part of, and I'm going to try and say this without tripping over it, because it's not the easiest word to say, Podcasthon.
We should have rehearsed that and done it together, been like, Podcastathon!
Ready? In 3. 1, 2, 3. Podcastathon!
Smash that.
For those that did so
Nailed
good.
it.
We nailed that. But for those who don't know what that is, because I didn't until a few months ago, it is basically a global movement that pulls together podcasts from around the world to focus on charity. And it is, I think, a 24, 36 hour window. I think it's 24 hours, but factoring in time differences globally. So I think it spreads out over about 36 hours. And it is podcasts from all over the world focusing on charitable acts, organisations, etc., etc. So I really wanted to get you guys down to talk about the fabulous Propertymark Trust.
Yes. It feels a bit like our property industry's kind of best kept secret, but we want to change that.
This is it. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about a special lady later, Mashaka, and how she's getting on. But before we do that, so for those who don't know, who are listening to this, Megan and I work in the real estate and letting agency world of the UK. So we work, in England, but we work in real estate or estate agency, depending where you are around the world listening to this, how you term it. And one of the core organisations within our industry is an organisation called Propertymark. So you might have some sort of like realtors foundation or organisation in your country, and that's kind of what Propertymark is over here. It's all about educating, raising standards, kind of professionalising the industry and everything else. And Megan here, you are our current ARLA, which is ARLA is the lettings section of that, president.
I am. We almost jinxed it because the guys here did buy me a jumper with El Presidente on it before we actually got the role. So there was an element of nerves and pressure, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, for you, it was a shoo-in.
Wow. We're glad we made it.
Largely because we bribed the people who decided, no, we didn't. But but no, I think, look, I think, there are very few people in our industry who planned and intended to come into our industry. And you are one of those very rare diamonds that was like, this, because of your mum, this is what I love, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to build a career in. So you're already a kind of unique entity. I'd say you probably account for like 1 or 2% of our industry who kind of come into it as part of kind of a mission plan.
Yeah, like an unintended legacy, I think, of my mum's was, we really didn't have much of a choice. It was pretty inevitable. But what I love about it is that I still bump into her old colleagues, and they love it because they're like, for them, I'm the girl that used to come in when I was sick from school and play on the photocopier and like eat all their biscuits in the office. And now they get to see like my career grow. So it's really special. It's lovely. I feel very honoured.
So let's start by just explaining, obviously I've given a really simplistic overview of what Propertymark is. So let's start, if you can just tell our audience a little bit more in more detail what Propertymark is,
yeah,
and kind of what's involved with your kind of tenure of being a president. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, so basically Propertymark is the leading membership body for estate and letting agents in this country. So for you to obtain a membership, you have to self-regulate. So you have to take a certain level of qualification. So in this country, estate and letting agents are completely unregulated. And but if you wanted to kind of have the stamp, the sticker, the letters, you have to go through a certain level of qualification. And then on top of that, you have to continue to provide continued professional development every year to be able to keep those qualifications valid.
To prove that you're
yeah.
continuing that study and development of knowledge and best practice.
Because we all know it's very easy to turn up to an exam, do it, tick the box, and then never think about it again. And so that stops that.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And there's two levels really. There's a couple of different qualifications, but the main levels are level 2, which is like your very, very entry level, like equivalent of a GCSE. You've got your level 3, which is like an A level, and then your level 4, which is about a year and a half of a degree. So 3 different tiers. And then my role as the president of the letting side is to basically represent all those members that sit in that membership body. So,
and I'm right in saying your presidential role, it's actually, it's like a 3-year kind of job, right? Because you have your like year in waiting, you're president-elect,
yeah.
Is that right? First year where you kind of
sort of
sub-honcho.
So you're vice president for a year, then you're president-elect for a year, and then you're president for a year. And then actually we have like what we kind of call like a transitional year. So actually we have the past president year, and that's...
So it's actually 4 years.
It's essentially 4 years. So actually the last year is less public focus, but more about being the person that supports the current president, because it's a big role and you have to learn a lot in a very small space of time.
And am I right in saying it's a non-salaried role?
It is, yeah. It's a voluntary role.
So you know, I think what's fascinating is the line of people that have come before and behind you. You know, it's quite a thing to observe. You know, this array of people across lettings and sales and auctions and block management. I think those are the kind of 4 main ones.
We have 3 presidents. So we have sales, lettings, auctions.
Sales, lettings, and auctions. And is there still ARMA as well? The block management? Or is that
that's
kind of
not
separate?
to do with us though.
That's not to do with you. Okay, cool. But I think what's fascinating is you guys balance this considerable 4-year commitment, because also it's very involved, right? You do roadshows and webinars, and you're kind of the number 1 call to for press calls and all this sort of stuff, and you do that unsalaried alongside a senior role within a successful and growing agency, which is Swindon Home Finders.
Yeah.
And then you've also juggling the joys of parenthood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, what at which point did you wake up in the morning and go, do you know what? Parenting and having a really busy job are all well and good, but what I really need is to tie myself into a 4-year commitment that I don't get paid for.
Do you know what? So I joined the Propertymark crew about 2 years before I think it was, that I decided to go down to the presidency route. For me, there was actually a massive correlation between the two, because I feel really strongly that this next generation aren't being nurtured into the property industry, and we are losing that talent pool really quickly, and that's alarming. So I think for me, I always wanted to represent that next generation. I also felt it was important to represent women, and I also felt it was really important to represent being a mum. So for me, I get the great pleasure of being the youngest ever president that we've had, who has a small child at home as well. And I love it because Dexter goes into school and at one point got so confused that he told everybody that I was going to be the Prime Minister.
It's amazing.
Which is very similar. Very similar. But actually, he's super proud of it. He loves it because he thinks it's like really cool, because I'm he keeps calling me like the boss. I mean,
but what's lovely is I think you're raising your kid with that same fascination and passion that your mum raised in you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Obviously, you know, as you know, I've got 2 kids as well. They don't really get what I do. I mean, Arlo's still too young. He's 4. So unless it's like Mario or kicking a football around, he's not really interested. But, you know, Elvie's getting to 8 now, and she kind of knows I do something to do with homes. Like, you know, we look after some property and people live in them, and like, but that's kind of the extent of it at the moment. So
I really talk to Dex about what I do, and it's really funny because he has 0 inclination to carry on the family business.
Oh, really?
I should say that.
Oh, really? That was me, like, you're building the next generation.
I really want to. I'm trying really hard. Like, he does know the difference between a freehold and a leasehold, and he did try and get me to put solar panels on the house. So I feel there's still hope. But No, at the moment he wants to run a dinosaur park. So, I'm all for that. Ambition.
Kudos to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kudos to him.
We did have a conversation about marketing, and perhaps we started with vegetarian dinosaurs because it's less risk. We've had a whole risk analysis.
Bring back dinosaurs. What could possibly go wrong?
Like 5
you'd think
films
they'd
or
have done a
whatever.
movie about it, but I am all for it.
Yeah, I am too. So I'm hoping that maybe we could sell some properties on the site, overlooking some dinosaurs perhaps.
Nice.
So I thought we could tie it in. I don't think all hope is lost.
Nice. So now we've kind of given people a bit more of an understanding of what Propertymark is. Let's now start talking about the main topic of today, which is the Propertymark Trust.
Yes.
Now, you said something earlier which is so valid, which is it is kind of our industry's best kept secret, because I like to think of myself as pretty well informed with generally kind of what's going on in the industry. But up until, 3-4 years ago, I don't think I knew the Propertymark Trust existed. And if I did, I don't think I really knew what it did. I kind of probably would have put it in a similar basket to like TDS have their charitable trust. But that's more about funding for kind of business innovation or social development of better understanding housing challenges and whatever. Whereas that's not really what Propertymark Trust about, is it?
No.
So tell us. I'm going to hand over to you now.
Okay.
Give us an overarch of what the Propertymark Trust is, and then expand a little bit more on kind of what that looks like.
So we actually used to be called the ARLA Trust, which is why a lot of people don't know who we are, which is actually showing that what we've been trying to do to elevate the charity is working, because we did a rebrand of it about 3 years ago maybe, and
about the time I became aware of it.
And with that we brought in new trustees like myself, and some other people within the industry as well. We've got an amazing lineup of trustees at the trust, so we're really lucky. But the trust basically has 2 pillars. So we cover education and we cover hardship. So education, we believe that as our charity of Propertymark, that education is absolutely vital, but money shouldn't stop people from being able to further their career. So we actually run an initiative called, the Class of, which this year is the Class of 2026. We run 4 intakes a year where we will basically pay various different grants from 25 all the way up to 100%, depending on people's needs, to help further their career by doing their qualifications. And I tell you, we hear from all different types of people, all shapes and sizes. There is no hard, fast rule about how that works. But what it does do is bring young people through often qualifications. I met a lovely girl who actually was local to me, and she lived on the same road as me.
Mad.
And she came through. She was fantastic. And I said to her afterwards, do you mind if I put your name out there to some people I know? And I'm really, really chuffed, because she's actually now doing the Class of 2026. And she's now got a job as a trainee sales negotiator, all in the space of, a month. And so it shows the power of what we can do with that. So that's one thing. But the one that we're most known for is our hardship grants. Now, the hardship grants there's again no hard and fast rule about what considers hardship. Comes in every shape and size, right? So, for example, we've paid for people's funeral costs because people have died unexpectedly. We have a lovely ambassador called Hayley. She's really great about sharing her story.
Hayley was the one who spoke at Agents Giving, was that?
She spoke.
Right?
So we played her video on the tour for a while. We played it at PropX.
Oh, PropX. That's where I would have.
Oh, she did speak at PropX. You're right.
Yeah.
So, so Hayley has a really, really sad story that her sister died really suddenly. A lady in her 30s, small children, and no one expects to die suddenly in their 30s. So we covered the cost of her funeral, for the funeral to be on the Friday, and then the Sunday hit and her dad passes away.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't remember it being that close, but I remember.
Was,
yeah,
it was in the space of, I think it was something like 3 weeks. They lost the daughter and the dad, or the sister and the dad. So those poor children lost their mum and their granddad in a really short space of time. So we paid for the first funeral. We get the phone call to say the dad's now died, which is just awful. So we were straight on the case, and we covered the funeral as well for dad, so that they can focus on what was truly important in that time, which was supporting the family, supporting the kids, and giving, and Hayley always says it was the difference between giving her a send-off or giving the send-off that she deserved. And that was really special. One thing we pay a huge amount of hardships our grants on out is cancer. When people are sick, employers more often than not will support as best they can.
As best they can.
But we also know that cancer is not a short fix.
No, and businesses, you know, we work in an industry where profit margins actually are much smaller than probably public perception.
Yeah.
I think the general public perception, I think, is that estate agents by and large make really good money, and the businesses also are like some sort of cash cow. Whereas I think you and I know quite different. The vast majority of people in agency work earn a very moderate salary in keeping with others, and the typical profit margin in most businesses is around 15, 16, 17%.
Yeah.
So, you know, no matter what a business's intent, what they'd like to do for their team, a lot of businesses, there's only so far they can.
And most people we speak with have had some sort of support from their employer.
Yeah.
But the support can only go so far. So we've paid people's wages for 3-4 months whilst they've had cancer treatment. So again, they can focus on getting better, not being worried about, you know, how you're going to pay your bills. We recently had a chap that was registered blind in his 40s unexpectedly, and we paid for specialist like AI glasses and special iPads so that he could continue to live a normal life. We've paid out for ramps and like little handles. Accessibility issues. That's a better word. Accessibility things when people have had strokes and then suddenly their homes don't fit for them. We've helped people set up after domestic violence and had to leave, you know, their home. We have literally paid out for pretty much everything.
Well, you said hardship. You know, hardship is different to everybody and means different things to people in different life circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. So and
it's nice to know that you guys don't have this kind of rigid framework of like, to qualify, it must be X, Y, and Z, and it must be filed by this and processed by that.
Absolutely. And you know what? Because we joke and say that we've got a group of us that look after the applications. We call ourselves the Care Bears, and we always.
That's cute and also slightly, but
basically, if there is so we have a remit of what we are allowed to give out grants for, which is quite broad, but there's a couple of things that obviously we can't go and fund you to go to America for specialist treatment, for argument's sake, you know.
I was going to go to Walt Disney for a special treatment in fabulousness. Can I can't
a vitamin infusion. But the point is that we will always, with those applications, still reach out and see if there's anything we can do, even if it's the travel to the airport, the hotel stay the night before, the cost of your fuel, whatever that looks like. We will try and do something, even if we can't help with the whole picture. And the nice thing is it doesn't just cover Propertymark members, it covers their family, it covers their colleagues. So for example, in this office, you are a proud ARLA member, is that right?
Anne and I, the two of us, but none of the rest of the team.
So all the team are covered under your membership.
Nice.
And all your family is. And obviously people who are employed by Propertymark are also included. So the remit's massive. So basically, as long as you work in an ARLA or an NEA building, you're sorted, you're covered. You can have access to this. That's the kind of vibe of the kind of hardship we give out. And one thing that we do always say to people is, as you can appreciate, those grants are expensive. So we pay out a huge amount of money per grant. I think it works out something like $5,000 roughly per person. So we're not skimpy with our costs.
No.
And recently we helped a lady. In fact, it was a really big case. She said to us that she'd applied for other charities and they took so long to come back. And we were, we're like.
That's the thing, right? It's got a lot of these things are, as you said, a sudden death, a sudden loss of sight, a sudden diagnosis, great there are the charities out there, but hanging on some hook that you may or may not get help for weeks or even months on end. Yeah. I mean, that almost adds to the anxiety, right? It's you kind of really need to know as soon as possible whether the help's there or not, so you can just get on.
And that's the reality is that hardship comes in all shapes and sizes. You don't know when it's going to hit you.
Yeah.
And so we like to think that we're there with a big hug. And one thing that is nice about the trust is the people that you see representing the trust are the people you speak to on the phone. Yeah. They are the people that are looking after your files. They are the people that are supporting you the whole way through the process. So there's no call centre. There's no, nothing like that.
Can I put you on the spot and we shout out who these people are?
Yes. Well, our trustees.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have myself.
Yeah.
We have Harry Truman. We have Lauren Scott Simpson, she's the chair. We have David Mintz. We have Mike Day. We have Taj Gill, he's recently joined us to help us. We've got John Oakley, and that is it. And we have some new trustees joining us very shortly. Ooh. We gave out the calls this week, so we can't quite share just yet who they are.
So they will have probably joined by the time this goes out. So what we will do is we will add these new fabulous people into the comments when we share the podcast.
Yeah, they're lovely. A real host of different people. So we've got a couple joining us that we agreed this week. But until they've signed all their paperwork, because obviously, as you can imagine, we have a huge amount of confidentiality paperwork that they have to sign to make sure. So that is one thing that I want to stress, is that in this industry, we all feel like we know each other. And we do, a lot of us. It can feel like you don't want to ask for help because you don't want people to know. They don't know. Yeah,
with hardship, it's incredibly personal. I mean, Hayley was very brave. Absolutely. Sharing her story, not what everyone would want to do. Absolutely. They don't want to kind of regurgitate something ghastly they've been through, but a lot of people do really struggle with sharing publicly that they needed help.
Absolutely, and we would never capitalize on that. You know, I think if some people realize half of what we've done, they would be really, really surprised, and some of the people that we've supported. But unless they're willing or wanting to be a part of that, then we would never force that. We'll only talk generically about cases. We would never talk very detailed about it unless that person obviously has shared their story.
So where does this money come from? Where is the money coming from that funds all this amazing work that you guys do?
So we get a small amount from Propertymark, from the courses that people book. So we get a contribution from them, which is super grateful. So if you are booking courses, know that you're also contributing to a good cause. We also get lots of donations on our stands at conferences. We have done things like fundraisers. So we did like a conference. The big fundraiser for us at the moment is what we call dormant funds, which is essentially abandoned
tenancy deposits.
Yeah, abandoned money, abandoned client money.
Yeah.
So there are,
which is probably predominantly
tenant money.
Tenant money and abandoned deposits.
So right. We, I think with something like six years, we have to hold that money, the agent does, and then after that, they're able to donate it to charity only. They can't give it away to, buy a new pair of shoes, but the big stinger on that, and why a lot of people don't donate it to charity, is that if somebody then comes back, so, Mr. Smith comes back for his 200 quid, you've given it away, you still got to give it back. So we will actually indemnify and pay it back to you within a 2-year window. So basically, that's 7 years you would have held that money, 8 years by the time it's come through, minimum. Yeah. Most deposits.
I mean, that's got to be rare, right?
We've never had one.
No, I was going to say, like, if they've because agents aren't quick to be like, oh, they don't want it. I mean, we've had a few over the years and do a lot of chasing. Mm-hmm. Given the sensitivity around deposits, we do a lot of chasing. It is slightly bemusing when it happens.
It's rare as well, and often, we will reach out endlessly when it comes to the deposit adjudication, and obviously we will continue to chase that. So from an agent's perspective, that money sitting in that account is a real nightmare when it comes to your accounting. So it's actually quite helpful for that as well. But the point is that should that situation come up, you can feel confident that you don't have to pay that money back out. If you're a business, we will give it back.
So look, I think that's a really interesting thing. If you're a Propertymark estate or letting agent, and based on what we've talked about, let's focus on ARLA and letting agents. It does happen once in a blue moon that you have that deposit. What is your strategy for that? Well, if you don't have one, you do now. You can put that money somewhere where it's being used in the most urgent of cases. It fulfills a legal obligation that you have, and like you said, there's that extra little indemnity, but no one's come knocking after 6 years. No. But if you've got money sat in there, in fact, if you're listening to this today and you are a letting agent, why don't you make it a mission that within the next week, you sit down with whoever runs your accounts, if it's not you yourself, do a full audit and identify if you do have any money like that is sat in your account currently, and maybe start putting some processes in place where you're mandating that goes over to the Propertymark Trust. Now, obviously, last thing for us to talk about before we kind of wrap up is it's not just about those bits and pieces. There are some people out there who go out and directly fundraise for you guys.
Yes.
And there is one superhuman lady out there right now doing something really rather epic, our lovely Sharka Wild. who is now out. I forget which country it is. I can remember the name of the mountain. Aconcagua.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I have stand on stage and I frequently just say she's climbing a really big mountain.
Yeah, so I'm used to saying like Icelandic mountain names. So like Aconcagua is like really easy peasy. But she's up there. So she is currently doing a climatization hikes at the moment. So she's not quite at base camp. She's flown out. They did a day down. Then they went up to kind of like the halfway base mark where they're up at altitude, getting used to that altitude. I think she did a 16k trek yesterday at about 4,000 meters. I think
it was like 4,200 or something like that.
So like that, and then in a couple of days' time, they move up to base camp, which is going to be a whole nother ball game, and then they start the hike. Now that I was blown away when she mentioned when we had her in, because we're really proud to be one of her major sponsors on the hike. But I was astonished about just how challenging it is, because you always sometimes with a lot of this charity stuff, and I say that fully aware that I have done lots of charitable things where it's like there's not really too much question whether you'll actually just get it done.
No one's dying dressed as a Spice Girl or Kristjan.
I think that will go over so many people's heads. So anyway, bring it back to Shaka. So yeah, the success rate on this mountain climb is like 30 to 40%.
Yeah. I said to her though, like, it takes a certain breed of person to go on a Stairmaster at the gym, right? We've all tried it, right? They're hard. Shaka does it with a backpack full of weights.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've also seen her post doing like her acclimatization, like hill walks, like going out in a t-shirt in the UK. And I say that as someone who does wander around in a t-shirt in December and January, but that's because I'm slightly odd and a Viking. So it's absolutely fine. Plus I have plenty of built-in insulation, so I'm absolutely fine. But yeah, seeing her, I mean, that woman has trained.
Yeah.
So and you know, the results she's getting, even though she's not even properly started the hike yet, are phenomenal. So Shaka originally set out with the ambition of raising £10,000 for Propertymark Trust.
And I'll be honest, we hit October, and she was about £6,000, and I was going, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself under pressure.
Yeah.
Like, we are so grateful, so chuffed that you've done this for us, because it's not just about the money, it's about the awareness that she's spreading for us as well, which is huge. And Shaka being Shaka was like, no.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah. I've set the target as 10. I'm going to do 10.
And she's like homing in on £25,000 now, which is just unreal. Yeah. Like, if we think of that from a hardship perspective, that's what, like 5 people?
That's 5 people's lives that are going to be transformed in the darkest, scariest moments.
Life-changing amounts of money. And we are so grateful for that. It is big. You know, it's not just us going for a trip up Snowdon, which is tough. This is next level stuff. You know, this is, you know, having to make sure she's taking the right kind of medication for altitude. She's having to make sure she's acclimatizing herself. She's having to use a shiwi. I love the fact you added that. That's the biggest commitment. I'm telling you that when, as a woman, you have to go to the loo on a ski holiday, that's hard enough getting through the layers, let alone having to do that.
I have a funny story about my wife at the ski resort in a week, but we will save that for the podcast story, because I don't think she'd like me putting that on.
Not one for the kids.
Honor.
But the point is it sounds ridiculous, but it's all these things that she's had to kind of get her head around as well. And on top of that, you know, the food up as you get higher, like at the moment she's eating pretty good, but like as you go up higher and higher, like you're essentially, I'm not joking when I say she's essentially on like glorified pot noodles. Like it's like astronaut food, you know. It's not real food. And so we've been looking after her social media as well to try and make sure that we're keeping everyone up to date. Base camp, I've got it all ready. 14,500 corgis stacked on top of each other.
So for those who don't know, because this is, like I said, a slightly different episode, Megan is you know, deputy queen of corgis.
I'm obsessed with corgis. I have 3.
Yeah.
But
you even built an industry mantra around being more corgi.
I think if anything, we've elevated corgi status in the property world. But yeah, 14,500 corgis stacked on top of each other.
That's a whole lot of corgis.
That is a lot of grooming.
That's a whole lot of corgis. That's a lot of grooming.
That's a lot of grooming.
So obviously we're recording this nearly 2 months before it's going to actually go live. I think it's about 50 days away.
Yeah.
So obviously what we've talked about, we'll make sure that the funding link is still open. So anywhere you are listening or watching this podcast, we will make sure there is a link.
Yeah.
So if you love what you're hearing, and whether you're part of the UK industry, whether you're part of a real estate industry somewhere else and you think, oh my God, what a cool thing, or you're just like, how great is it that there are organisations out there that look after people, we'll be sharing Sharka's fundraising link, and literally, even if it's £5, chip it in. Because, you know, if we get 1,000 of you to chip in £5, that's another person's life changed in their darkest times. And obviously we will be updating how Sharka has got on. I am absolutely adamant that it's not going to be long and we're going to get past that 25k mark.
Oh no, I think we're about I think at this point we're about £2,000 off. So.
Yeah, when I look, I think we're closer, because when I looked the other day, we were on like 23 and a smudge. So we're about £1.5 short of 25. And I think every target we hit, we just keep pushing for the next one. So I think it's going to be long that we can start talking about 30. Let's see what that's got to, like I said, when we share this. But yeah, look, I think what it is an amazing thing. I think it's surprising to me that we can have things like this that do kind of go unknown and unaware of within the industry. And it's great to now see this being put more front and center, that people have got that reassurance that, yeah, if they find themselves in the most awkward and difficult of times, there is something they can turn to if they don't have someone. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing, guys. It's awesome sauce.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to spread some awareness for us as well, and for your contributions, your generous contributions towards Sharka's fundraiser, because as I said, it changes lives. So, and I don't mean that in any cheesy or corny way.
No, literally. We give things a lot of big jazzy names nowadays when we talk about stuff, but this is genuinely a life-changing organisation with the objective of just trying to make people's lives that little bit easier when it feels impossible.
Absolutely.
So you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for listening. I say, if you want to find out more about the Propertymark Trust, Google it. You'll find information. We'll be sharing Sharka's fundraising link. So if you want to contribute, drop in there. Yeah, thanks for listening.